So happy to be with you. Um, I must confess that talk title caught my attention too. I was trying to figure out where it came from. And I think what happened was Roy and I were watching some mystery shows. We watch a lot of these British mystery shows. And the detectives were fishing. It was part of the plot. And I must have had a dream that night. And somehow when I woke up in the morning, it was, your talk title with Santa Rosa is Gone Fishing. I'm like, really? Oh, okay. Well, we'll deal with that and see how that all unfolds. So I am really passionate. I'm feeling more passionate as I listen to you talk about what I'm doing in my life. It made me feel more passionate, which is kind of exciting. I'm really passionate about unity and the way unity offers us literally a bridge in our life from everyday living where things can be challenging for us to a place of higher consciousness where we can begin to see ourselves and know ourselves to be the spiritual beings that we came down on the planet to live and to co-create in that presence of the Christ consciousness. And one of the things that I love about unity is the way Charles Fillmore has given us the metaphysical understanding of the teachings in the Bible. And of course, we can think of metaphysics in not just looking at the Bible and the stories in the Bible, but we can think of metaphysics as an aspect of understanding everything in our life. If you think about metaphysics to mean beyond the physical, how do I see this experience I'm having as part of the journey of my soul, the ever-evolving journey of my soul? Because that's what Charles Fillmore was all about. That's what he was gifting us with, things like his book, The Revealing Word, or his massive book called the Metaphysical Dictionary, where he took all the locations and names of people in the Bible and literally anchored them into aspects of our being, aspects of the journey that we each have, from this place of what he would call mortal mind or carnal mind, or, you know, think of it as like everyday existence in the physical realm, to Christ consciousness, to higher consciousness. So having said that, and just, you know, kind of sharing my excitement about this, that unity has gifted us with such amazing awareness in terms of tapping into what Charles and of course Myrtle and all the other amazing teachers we've had, to really see what's going on in our life right here and right now. So because I got Gone Fishing, we're going to explore a couple of those stories in the Bible. And I really feel like as I was exploring them for myself, I thought, there's a lot here to look at a couple of different levels. On the one hand, I think a lot of us, and if you're like me, I came into unity, found unity in 1990 because my life was a mess. I came in for myself. It was all about me, and the things that I learned really helped me transform in my life. But now my experience is not about me anymore. I mean, yes, there is about me because I'm always learning, we're always learning, but it's much more about how do I share these gifts that have been so extraordinary in my life? How do I take them out in the world? So what I was feeling was this awareness of who the disciples are and how they basically are an aspect of my consciousness, an aspect of your consciousness, an aspect of our consciousness together, because togetherness is our word today. I guess that works out really well. And so I thought we could explore that from a couple of different ways. There are two really powerful stories about the disciples, the fishermen disciples, and Jesus. And they kind of tie together in some interesting ways. The first story is a story that you can read in most of the synoptic gospels, but in Luke specifically, the story is told that Jesus was on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. And there were a lot of people there. There were so many people trying to hear his message that he was kind of pressed up against the water, and there were a couple of boats there. And so he got into one of the boats. And it happened to be Peter's boat, Simon Peter's boat. And he said to Peter, push me out, get in the boat with me and push me out. Let's get out a little bit. And so Jesus was doing his teachings from the boat, and people were on the shore listening to him. And when all the people went away, Jesus said to Peter, let's go out and, go out into the deep and put your nets down and catch some fish. Well, Peter had called in two other boatmen, John and his brother James, known as the sons of Zebedee. Peter was there with his brother Andrew. So there were 4 fishermen in 2 boats. Well, Peter heard Jesus say, go put your nets down to the deep. And Peter said, we've just been fishing all night and didn't catch anything. There are no fish out there. Jesus said, trust me, let's go. So out they went, they put their nets down, and the story is that they had this huge catch of fish. They came back in, and there was some discussion going on with Peter not trusting what Jesus said, but all of a sudden there was an awareness within Peter and also his other 3 fishermen friends that this being has something to teach us. And this is the point that many of us have heard the story where Jesus says, I will make you fishers of men. So just pause and remember that story. And who was there in that story? Peter was there. Metaphysically, Peter represents our faith. Andrew was there, his brother. Andrew represents the power of strength. John was there, and John represents the power of love, and his brother James represents the power of wisdom. So in this initial connection, when Jesus first meets his disciples, he's meeting faith and strength and power and love, that quality within us. So just thinking about this for yourself, when you are connecting into higher consciousness, sometimes some of us don't have faith. Sometimes some of us don't feel strength. Sometimes we're not feeling connected in a place of love, and our wisdom has just gone out the window. But we need at least one of these capacities to be able to connect in with that Christ presence, with the divine presence, with that indwelling higher consciousness that's available to each one of us, so that when we put our nets out, we're able to catch fish. We'll talk a little bit more about nets and fish in a minute. But just being aware of those 4 qualities, and Charles Fillmore talks about the 12 powers. Those are 12 capacities that we have. And what I want to say is sometimes we need to borrow someone else's faith, or we need to borrow someone else's connection with strength, or we need to ask for wisdom from someone that we know has more wisdom than we happen to have in this moment. So what I'm saying is it's not necessary that we have all 4 to be able to have that connection. But this is what was going on at that first encounter when the disciples, those who were willing to follow Jesus, made that initial connection. So just be willing to open to this in your own life. Now, I want to fast forward a little bit, and we're going way fast forward because we're basically going very close to the end of Jesus' teaching. And it's another time that they are out in their boats. And what's happened is, I'm going to read this to you because it's from the Gospel of John. At this time, there are a few more disciples there. We have Simon Peter, and also Thomas, our doubting Thomas is there. Nathaniel, also John and James are there. And what happens is the fishermen have been out in their boat. They've been out all night. In this case, apparently they're fishing at night, and they've come back in and they've had no catch whatsoever. And Jesus is on the shore, but they don't know that it's Jesus. It's just a man standing on the shore. And he calls out to them as they're coming in from their fishing with no catch. And he says, "Children, have you caught any fish? Have you found anything to eat?" And they answer, "No." So what he says is, cast your net to the right side of the boat. So they go back out, they pick their nets up, and they put them on the other side of the boat, down deep. These nets were very, very deep. Apparently they were like 300, 400 feet deep, that they would go down very, very deep, these long nets. And when they pulled the nets up, there were so many fish. They had more fish than they've ever had before. They had so many fish that normally this kind of a catch would have broken all the nets, but it didn't break any of the nets. So they came back into the shore to be with Jesus. And what does Jesus do? Jesus is preparing a meal for them. He says, bring the fish. We're going to cook the fish. They have a meal together. They share a meal together with these many, many, many fish. So these two stories, how does this impact us? What does this mean for us? So I was thinking about this in my own life, and times when you put your net out. What's your net? Well, Fillmore talks about net in one way, and I actually didn't want to look at Revealing Word because I had my own idea what net was, and I kind of like my idea better, so I'm going to tell you my idea first, and then I'll tell you Charles. My idea is that the net that I carry is my consciousness. It's my state of consciousness. If I am in a state of consciousness that is about fear, and I put my net out anywhere, if I put my net out in order to connect with someone, what is going to be the result? I'm going to come up with no fish are representative of divine ideas, but I'm going to come up with not a very good experience. If my net is a net of anger, what am I going to pull up when I put that net down there? I'm going to pull up a bunch of ideas about resentment and how terrible this experience was, what this person did to me. If my net, however, is a net that is about the connection that I have with the divine, a place of gratitude in my life, and I put that net down there, what am I going to pick up? I'm going to pick up those things that I feel grateful for. I'm going to pick up connections with my family. I'm going to pick up the teachings and the tools that I've received from Unity, knowing that I'm a child of God. I'm going to pick up new ideas to co-create the things that I've been called to co-create in the world. So this idea that the nets that we have as we are disciples, as we are connected into the living spirit of truth, that Christ consciousness, that higher consciousness, those nets become the level and the quality of consciousness moment to moment that I'm holding in my heart and holding in my mind. Now, Charles Fillmore, I'll tell you what Fillmore says, because it's variation on theme. I'm looking up fish here. I wanted to see fish. Hang on, I put net away because I said, I like my net better, but I'm going to give you Charles Fillmore's net because I've got to be a good Unity minister here. So Charles Fillmore is, man's mind is the net that catches thoughts, which are the basis of external conditions. Yes. This net works hard and long in the darkness of human understanding and gains but little. But once the Christ mind is perceived and obeyed, the net is cast on the right side and success follows. So essentially, Fillmore is telling us that the net needs to be connected to higher consciousness, whatever higher consciousness is for you. That feeling of connection and love, that feeling of the connection of the grace of God, the gratitude that we connect with when we're tuned into our spiritual community. Whatever it is that is calling us into a sense of openness, of receptivity. And there's some qualities that I thought were really important here when we look at this idea that we are disciples of the Christ, in the sense that we are students of these awarenesses, these higher teachings. I'm a Unity student, you're a Unity student. And as a student, I'm like the fisherman. I'm someone who's willing to be humble. I'm willing to be taught. I'm willing to follow the guidance of one who has gone before me, who knows. And there's a quality that I thought about fishing. I'm not a fisher. I don't know fishing, but I just imagine that to be a fisherman, there's a vast amount of patience, that is required. There's the quality of being willing to be still and wait. And just as Fillmore says, and these fishermen were fishing at night, and you know, people go out in the dark, there's this quality of being willing to be in that stillness and in the darkness. And for us, you know, darkness can represent not just that there's a lack of light in terms of physical light, or even light in terms of the divine light, the presence of spirit in our life, but darkness can really represent those times in our life when we're feeling lost, when we're feeling a sense of sadness, or we're feeling a sense of grief. And certainly right now, we're living in a time when so many people are in that, they're in that deep, dark place. And so it could be that you and I are disciples as students, and we have this experience of being in this deep, dark place. And we need to really reevaluate. We need to mend our nets. The disciples were mending their nets when Jesus found them. We need to mend our nets, meaning we need to reconnect to higher consciousness. We need to do that if we find ourselves going into those places where we're pulling up anger, we're pulling up resentment, we're pulling up sadness, or we have pain in the physical body, which has caused us emotional and mental and spiritual suffering. But there's also another place where you and I are disciples. And that is the place of the disciples that are fishers of men. Fishers of men and women. That is the place where you and I have mended our nets to such a point that we understand what it means to live in higher consciousness, that we know what it means to live from a place of gratitude and connection to the divine. And so our very presence is a gift to others. The very presence that we hold, without even saying a word sometimes, allows other people to connect into a higher place of consciousness, to a deeper place of peace within. And to literally, it's almost as if our presence can help mend the nets of others who are dealing with a sense of loss, a sense of sadness, a sense of anger, a sense of brokenness in their life. And, you know, I say this from a place of inner knowing, actually, and of my own personal experience of being both the disciple as a student and having the gift of a teacher lift me up into a higher place. And also from that place of being a teacher and having my presence simply without words impact others and bring them into a state of feeling peace and calm in their life. And what I know, and I love you, Santa Rosa, because I can always share these things that I don't always share in other Unity churches, because I feel like you're a church that's in higher consciousness most of the time. So I'm speaking to the choir here. But what science is telling us now is that we literally live as these vibrational fields of energy. We are a torus field. We are an energy vibrational field that comes around from the heart and down and up. And if you know anything about heart math, you'll understand how powerful these energy vibrations are. And this is exactly what Jesus called us into. He called his disciples into that. And we're called into that as Unity students, as those who really understand that the presence and power of God, one presence, one power, active in my life and active in the universe, and that I participate in that presence. It's active in me, it's active in you. And however I show up with my thoughts, with my consciousness, whatever's in my net, that's going to be the catch of the day. Hi there, somebody came on. Catch of the day, we caught it. Anyway, it's an important thing for us to be aware of, that our very presence, and science will attest to this, will impact the people around us. And so how important it is for you and for me to be willing to take a look moment to moment, you know, even if we're in that place of darkness, what is going on? To be willing to see it. not to judge it, not to do anything, but to see it and to call upon the higher presence. Maybe it means calling a friend. Maybe it means calling Elle or your prayer chaplain. Can I borrow your believing right now? I need a little faith. I need a little wisdom. I need some inner strength. Whatever it is, we have that capacity. And because of the power of the teachings of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and the bridge that they've given us in this metaphysical understanding of moving out of everyday worldly life, everyday physical reality, into higher consciousness, we can understand these things at a deep and powerful level. So gone fishing, we're fishing all the time, aren't we? Just invite you to take a look. How is this unfolding in your life? What are you catching? What's the catch of the day? Whatever you've got today is probably was in the field of the nets that you put down yesterday, or even 5 minutes ago. Bring it back up, mend your net, do a meditation for a few minutes, go into the stillness, phone a prayer chaplain, go online, go to Unity. Feel that regeneration and rejuvenation of the divine presence in your life. Anyway, many blessings. Thank you all. I think we're going to do a meditation, but I'm not quite sure what the music thing is for this. So Star Tom's going to have to tell me. What do we do? Do I just do a meditation? No music?
You just do a meditation, yeah.
Okay.
Get out of sync otherwise.
Sounds good. So let's go. Get your net. Take a moment, just closing your eyes. And in this moment, imagine before you that you have a net. The disciples had two different nets. They had a big, wide, circular net that was very, very wide and shallow, and they could just pick up things that were in the shallow part of the sea. Or they had a very long, deep net, 380, 400 feet deep. Take a moment and see, what does your net look like? What's in your net right now, without any judgment? What are some of the qualities that have woven the net that you're going fishing with right now? Is it gratitude? Is it curiosity and openness? Is it humility? Is it wonder? Or is there a little fear happening? Some sadness, a little grief, missing people? Just see what's there. And as you look at your net, ask the divine presence, ask the Christ presence, the presence that you know within yourself and the presence that you know as part of this community. Ask for the support you need to mend your net right here and right now. Maybe you need a little more faith, or you need some strength of Andrew, or a little more love from John, or wisdom from his brother James. Ask the divine presence to bring into your consciousness whatever it is that you feel you need right now, and whatever it is the divine presence knows you need. And as you trust and know that God gives you everything you need, take a moment and drop your net down into the deep. And sit in that stillness for a minute before you pull it up and see what's there. And as you bring up your net, Be willing to observe if there's something in your net that's a gift for you, and perhaps also something in your net that's a gift you're to give to someone else. As a disciple who is a student and also a teacher. And offering up gratitude for the powerful presence of this spiritual community and the gift and grace that we've been given with the teachings of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and the Unity Movement. Just feel gratitude in your heart and say, thank you, God. When you're ready, open your eyes. Thank you so much. Thank you, God. So it is. And so we offer up gratitude for the presence of the divine, the God presence living in and through each one of us, and for the blessing of this powerful spiritual community. And may we all be aware of our nets. And when we need to mend them, take that time to go within or call a friend, connecting into that higher place of consciousness so that we can be the hands and feet of God in the world. And so it is.
Mm-hmm.